Can you elaborate on what an N95 mask is? Because that's like, I got no clue.
It means that 95% of the shit that's out there in the air doesn't get through the mask.
And do you use one of those for your normal surgeries?
No, we use just general surgical masks. So when you go around,
Boring.
yeah, well, dude, we're like, when you wear a surgical mask, it's two things. Number one, you certainly don't want to get blood in your face, right? But number two is you're not spewing all of the stuff in your mouth onto the patient. And so when you go to the grocery store, okay, and you see somebody wearing a mask, so the only reason somebody in public should be wearing a mask is if they're already sick. And by definition, if you're already sick, you should be staying at home anyway.
Dude, everyone is wearing masks now. It's been a slow growth.
It's ridiculous. Absurd. They don't even wear them right. The things are pushing out on the side. They got a thing up here. You know, air can get in from the sides. I mean, the whole idea of an N95 is it completely surrounds the zone. It's got a filter inside, which then blocks 95% of viral particles and other stuff, toxic stuff from coming in. So you literally, when you're wearing a mask and walking around in the street, what you're doing is helping other people next to you because you're not sending stuff out to them, but it's not protecting you.
Dude, at Stop and Shop, yeah. Have you ever seen Silver Linings Playbook?
Yeah.
Like there was someone who looked like Bradley Cooper with all like the trash bags around their body. I'm like, what is that doing for you, man?
You know, and then they wear gloves on and then they grab the fruit and then they scratch their forehead. I'm like, dudes, what are you doing? This makes no sense. So grab your food, go home and wash your hands, wash your fruit and vegetables, minimize your contact as much as you can to metal and things in which around you. But just don't be picking up avocados and feeling them all and throwing them back in there again. That's not helping anybody. So, hi, this is Dr. Scott Sigman. This is my Platinum Hour.
Oh God, what's going on? Where am I going? Dad?
Yes, my son. I am Deuce, the deer god.
I'm so confused. Who am I?
Derek. Your true name is Dercules. Dercules.
Wait, what?
Yes. You are Dercules, the god of the forest. Season 5.
Hosted by your favorite podcast host, Big Bochi. You already know the deal, mother. What's up? Is that like, so we're live. Is that like all you've been doing with the last 6 days? Just like combing the fro?
There's certainly been a lot more time for that, unfortunately. But we've been getting some work done too.
Are you able to be productive from your house? I mean, you and I are very similar in being like very type A, like hands on, let's go. Are you right now, are you finding that your mania is really picking up?
It's been surprising. I've actually had more to do than I thought I would. You know, I'm still going to the office on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. Not seeing a tremendous number of patients. So we're open for business. I don't know if you want to do a little intro. Does everybody know who I am? How do you want to start this whole thing? We go.
It's so different, man. And we're not in the studio. It's weird. But yes, do you want to give a quick synopsis of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure, man. So this is my second time on Boston's #1 podcast. Thank you, brother. You are the man. I'm Dr. Scott Sigman. I like to describe myself as the original opioid-sparing orthopedic surgeon, healer of knees and shoulders, left and right, social media influencer, hashtag follow the fro.
Hashtag Tylenol sponsored. Yes, sir, baby boy.
Nope, not today, brother. I wish I could get it for you, though.
Oh!
So the question is, are we open for business? So yeah, my orthopedic practice is open for business. We are seeing urgent patients only. We're trying to minimize exposure to patients and staff, but you know, the hospitals are really worried about all the stuff that's happening with COVID. So they're asking, orthopedic offices and some of the specialty offices to remain open to try and, limit the need for patients to go to the emergency department for routine broken stuff or, cuts and lacerations and things like that. So we are still open and we feel like it's the right thing to do, but we've closed down, half of our waiting room. We put the chairs out like at least 12 feet apart. We're only bringing in maybe 3 patients an hour. So there's not a lot of interaction. You're sort of in, you're out. is our philosophy. And we're doing the best we can to still care for patients. And then we're doing a lot of telemedicine now, which is really cool. I'm not sure if you heard about this, but the governor and then also the federal government has now waived a lot of the HIPAA rules so that we can communicate to patients, and then we can also, be able to bill for this so that we can still continue to see patients, minimizing their risk. So it's actually a win-win for everybody. The patients are still getting seen. We're able to see and talk to patients and be able to keep things moving. But the one thing we're definitely not doing is elective surgery. We've been shut down. So,
And does that apply? So for anybody who listens to this or watches this, Dr. Sigman also has his own business called Ortho Laser, which is like an opioid sparing treatment center. Are all those shut down right now too?
So we're leaving that to the discretion of the individual centers. We have 5 that are open across the country at this point. Where I am in particular, we're pretty much on lockdown. None of the doctor's offices are really seeing patients. I'm not in there seeing a lot of patients. And so we furloughed the majority of our employees, unfortunately, on Friday. My office manager, Aaron, is still on staff and available. So depending...
That's a big word. Sorry, can we rewind? What does furloughed mean?
Okay, so good. So furloughed means a temporary unemployment, with the idea being that you're going to bring your employees back. And the temporary furlough that's been established here in the Commonwealth allows us to do 4-week increments. So we have basically told our employees to apply for unemployment with the anticipation that you are going to be rehired within the 4-week window. At any point during that 4-week window, if this whole thing just mysteriously goes away, then they can be rehired and they come back to work and we can start seeing patients. Right now, we were spacing patients out at Ortho Laser quite well too. We were disinfecting, we were doing, applying all the appropriate rules. We were screening patients, but the number of patients that are available for this treatment right now is so small that it wasn't worth staying open. Now, again, if it turns out that we don't go into a shelter-in-place mode here in Massachusetts or across the country and the virus isn't so bad where we are, then we'll reopen and get people back in and start healing. And I'll be honest with you, there's going to be a huge need for Ortho Laser. I mean, let me be perfectly clear. Elective surgery is probably... So what is elective surgery? Let's talk about that, right? So,
well, real quick before we get into elective surgery, what is
yeah.
the benefit to furloughing your employees as opposed to just saying, hey, I'm just going to give you like a 2-3 week unpaid leave?
So
do you get some sort of tax credit or something?
No, it's not. So it's very technical, and I want to stay in my lane. But I have been talking to my healthcare attorney and making all decisions with appropriate labor attorney to make sure that I'm doing what's best for our employees, but then also trying to explain to them what these things are. So a layoff is a permanent event. So when you bring somebody to the office and you say, we're going to lay you off at this point, the employee gets paid all their sick time, personal and vacation time, and then they're free to go. And
We're buying you out, man. Get out of here.
Done. So go get another job, apply for unemployment, do whatever it is that you want to do, but that job is not available right now.
And don't come back.
Those are your words, brother, not mine. So because we do want our employees back, we are furloughing them, which implies a temporary event. You can go for 4 weeks, and then you can go for another 4 weeks, and then it can be decided from there. We wanted to be able to provide direction to our employees. We wanted to be able to say to them, look, we appreciate all you're doing here. We don't have business to pay you at this point right now. Get on to unemployment. Check the right box or the right things on page 29 and page 32 of your unemployment application to make sure that you are, and it says it right there. There's a big arrow that points to where you're supposed to go to if you're doing a furlough or a temporary position. And then we're going to call you as soon as we can to get you back. And I think people were appreciative. They wanted to know that there was a plan. They were going to have some income. There's a lot of things coming down the pipeline from the federal government that we don't know about yet that's going to help small businesses and help individual people that are out of their jobs. And right now, you just do the best you can, hunker down, and just provide direction. That's what I wanted as an employee. I wanted to be able to provide some specific direction to our employees so they knew what their options were.
When you had first gotten the news that everything was shutting down, what was your initial reaction?
Surreal, unbelievable. What's going on? I mean, literally, 2 weeks ago, it was like, whatever you want to do, right? I mean, maybe 2.5 weeks ago, you're thinking about this, you're thinking about a business move, or we're going to open up lasers here, we're going to open up lasers over there. And now all of a sudden I'm shutting down a laser, and it's like, it just doesn't seem real is the best way to describe it. It's amazing how something so dramatic can happen to our lives in such a fast fashion.
No, what's so weird is that as capitalists, you kind of take the game for granted, and then when something like this happens, you're like, "Oh my god, dude! I realize how much like I love growing and building my own thing, and it can just be ripped from me at any moment. It's totally out of my control."
Yeah, I mean, I hate to get all like spirited and all that stuff, but dude, like we're Americans, and when this shit happens, we rally, and it's like, what happens? Okay, we need ventilators. Okay, well, GM is saying, fine, okay, we're going to start building ventilators. You've got, distilleries for whiskey, okay, who are
I saw
saying,
that the
yeah,
Purell.
yeah, they're making Purell. They're making, I mean, so it's like, look, this has to pass. I mean, that's the only way I can live my life, right? I mean, I wake up, I don't get hung up on all the other stuff that I didn't do yesterday. I'm like, okay, what's our solution for today? Don't bring me problems, bring me solutions. So how are we going to get through this? What are we going to do? So you asked me earlier, I mean, am I keeping myself busy? Yeah. I mean, I've been asked to do 10 webinars in the last 4 days. I got 10 gigs to be able to get online and be able to educate doctors on a lot of the cool stuff that we're doing. So yeah, that's great. I'm also been asked to now write a white paper for OrthoLazer. We're going to put together a webinar there. We're doing strategy for marketing. So my day is more busy than I would have anticipated. Obviously, I'd love to get back, operating on patients, which I don't think is going to happen for a long time, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, people seem to adapt it pretty quick. So, in terms of, let's dip into elective surgery just a little bit. Um, it's like a federal wide mandate right now. It's not set in stone, but they're saying like, dude, anything that's elective medically, you got to stop because we're totally worried about our healthcare system being overrun. How would the elective surgery like be a detriment to you and your business if you're not going to actually be operating on COVID patients?
So first and foremost, the American College of Surgeons and the Surgeon General of the United States have really given a very specific, position that elective surgery should be stopped. Let's talk about what elective surgery is so the audience understands it. So urgent and emergent surgery, basically, that's happening right now is cancer-related surgery or life-threatening surgery. So, and there is some grays in there. It's not, the blacks and the whites are pretty obvious, right? We're not going to do carpal tunnel surgery. We're not going to do breast augmentation right now for an otherwise healthy individual.
A
Now,
labrum tear like mine, would that be elective?
totally elective, not happening. My 17-year-old son was scheduled for an ACL surgery this past Friday. Not happening, and not happening anytime soon. You can't justify, and here's the reason why, okay? The reason why is the supply chain is really limited at this point. So all of the masks, the gloves, and the gowns that we want to be able to utilize for elective surgery need to be funneled to the emergency room and the ICUs at this point. And the first responders, the people that are online doing the testing, that's who needs these gowns and gloves. We don't to do elective surgery. It's not life-threatening for us. So we need to chill, step back. But it's like, this is like the George Orwellian theory of life, when it comes to surgeons. They're the same way. All doctors are created equal, but some doctors think that they're more equal than others. So there are still facilities, despite these recommendations, that are doing elective surgery across the country. It's ridiculous. I mean, I don't know how they sleep at night. They're for personal financial gains. What's happening? These hospitals are staying open to do elective surgery because they need to make money, and they don't really care. And then doctors are doing the same thing. I just don't know how these doctors and hospital administrators can sleep at night knowing that they're staying open, and there's doctors and nurses at Brigham and Women's Hospital and the major hospitals down in Boston who are literally pleading for people out on the street to bring in their gloves and their masks so we can use them to treat for our patients. It just is really upsetting.
So two things. So you shutting down your facility is a more of a precautionary measure in case, let's say like Lowell General or Mass General says, dude, like we need your equipment. We can't have you use it right now.
So in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the Governor Baker and Secretary of Health and Services Sutters have basically through the healthcare commission shut down elective surgery. So if you have a licensed surgery center or hospital in the state of Massachusetts, you cannot do elective surgery. It's not allowed.
That sucks.
Yeah. So, and the problem is, let me tell you where the problem is that it's not going to be fixed anytime soon. Okay, let's say 4 weeks from now, the green flag goes up and everybody's like, okay, this is past. We're going to open up our Starbucks again and we're going to start doing some elective surgery. It's not going to happen. Like, I have 80 patients that are going to be on the backlog for surgery. I'm not on a good week. I can do 15. So you start doing the math, and then I've got the patients that are already scheduled. So,
and then people who are getting re-injured and you need emergency surgery.
So the normalcy of the pace of elective surgery, in my eyes, may take till the end of the year before we truly catch up. And so,
I'm sorry, man.
It sucks. It sucks. It's just one of those things that people are going to have. And then let's say this, so let's go back to OrthoLaser. This is why I think it's like the perfect storm for OrthoLaser. We're really excited at our corporate level to be able to expand so we can help people in particular. Let's say, you work for a construction company, right? And you've been out of work for now 8 weeks, whatever it is. And you've got a rotator cuff tear and you were scheduled for surgery. The last thing you're going to do is jump in and have surgery. You're going to get your ass back to work, get a paycheck, and start, paying for stuff. So patients are going to be looking for alternative treatments. There's going to be a backlog of surgery anyway. The total knee replacements, it's going to take forever to get all those patients back into the queue and taken care of. So we're really hoping that we're going to be able to, really offer an alternative treatment option for those patients to be able to seek out OrthoLaser, to be able to have care. You can still have a partially torn rotator cuff as an electrician. You can get lasered and feel better and then push the surgery out until the time is right for you. So we're looking good there. And, I don't want to seem so crass, but, orthopedic surgeons, the majority of your income comes from surgical intervention. It just does.
Elaborate. What do you mean?
So probably 60% of a busy orthopedic surgeon's revenue comes from elective surgery. So you see patients, you're helping them. You may do surgery, may not. You're doing injections and therapy and other stuff. But at the end of the day, you're a surgeon.
Surgery is the moneymaker, man.
That's it. So there's going to be a significant there's going to be a reduction in revenue for orthopedic surgeons because of this crisis, for sure.
Now, see, what's been interesting to me is that we're so programmed in our society to go and achieve and go. So I understand why it's selfish for other hospitals not to shut down, but it's so sudden that it's tough to just change somebody's mindset just like that,
I don't think so.
I get it. You and I are on Zoom at the cribs. I get it.
No, we're healthcare providers. That's for, you're supposed to be able to look beyond and make sure you take care of patients. I want to go back. I want to make sure that, at the end of the day, okay, I'm going to make less money, but that's not what this is about right now. Right now, it's about caring for our patients and figuring out a way, once this thing ends, or even while it's happening, being able to care for as many patients as we can, keeping them away from the hospitals. That's why we're staying open, to be able to see the urgent people and sort of remove the backlog from the emergency rooms in the hospitals. And then once this clears and passes, we need to come up with a pathway. And I'm like, I'd go to work, dude. I'd operate 7 days a week. I'll just do that. For 3 weeks. If you open up the surgery,
you're a machine.
I'll do it, man. I'm an orthopedic machine. No, seriously, I would do that for 7 days. I would, crank it out for 3 weeks. The problem's going to be, I'm going to tell you right now, they're not going to have the materials. They're going to say to me, you could do 3 or 4 cases because we just don't have the stock for all the stuff that we need to do.
Now, was this something that before this had happened so suddenly, were you aware of that in America, we just did not have the medical supplies we needed to handle something like this?
Yeah, I have no idea. Did I know anything about the Defense Protection Act, which, they have these 12 centers across the country that house all of this stuff, the sterile stuff, the masks, the ventilators, it's all sitting there and it's all there for this national emergency. And the thought process before wasn't going to be biologic. Everybody thought it was just going to be wartime, whatever it is. It turns out it is a war, but it's a biological war. And
An
so
invisible enemy.
and I would lay fault with the federal government. I'm like, what the hell, guys? Why are you not releasing this stuff? You're seeing it, you're hearing about it, and let's get this stuff out. You have what are you saving it for? But it's classic government bureaucracy. It was a slow process. Trump says, well, we've enacted it, but we're not going to release it. Every day, right? It seems like it's like a 12-hour cycle where something changes dramatically from what it was before, right? Your liberties are reduced every 12 hours.
It's like I mean, I don't know if you've been stuck in the house just like switching between all the news channels, because that's like the only content that's being rejuvenated on TV, but like it's just like this massive just show of what's going on.
Yeah, no, they make it a lot worse too. And the bottom line is a lot of people just don't know. I mean, that's the problem. There's so much misinformation out there. I mean, we don't know a lot about the virus. I mean, they're working overtime on it. They're working on treatments. They're working on vaccines. There's one study that that really gives me hope, and it's a University of Maryland virology study out of Professor Gallo, who's the guy that sort of basically figured out HIV, and they looked at the geographic positioning of the hot zones around the world, and
for the virus.
So Wuhan, Seattle.
Wuhan. You're the first person I've ever heard say it like that.
Whatever. Wuhan. It's all good. And so Seattle, New York City. You're like one of my kids. You're making fun of me for talking. I love it.
Wuhan.
New York. And then you go, Spain, Italy, Iran. They sort of fall within this geographic pattern that has very similar temperature and humidities and a very narrow band north to south. So these virologists in their study, believe me, I'm staying in my lane. I don't know this stuff, but they're saying that it's not by accident that there are really hot zones. Like, why is it in northern Italy, they're dying by hundreds a day, but in southern Italy, they're okay. I mean, so there's something about that. And so it gives me hope. I'm hoping that, I feel terrible for everybody in New York. I think it's going to be bad in New York, but it may not be so bad here. We don't know. I mean, you got to play by the rules, and we are. I mean, we're doing all the right things, and my family personally practices, personal distance and social distancing and all that. We're not running around having parties and doing all that crazy stuff. I mean, you tell me, what do you think of the spring breakers? Are you pissed? They're knuckleheads? What are they doing?
Well, so you're saying you and Sandra just haven't made out in like 2 weeks?
No, dude, they're going to be like, do you know how many babies are going to be born in like 9 months?
Oh, it's going to be absurd.
The other thing I heard, which was kind of funny, is that the divorce rate in China is like 75% right now. Everybody stayed home together for 6 weeks, and there's now all these divorces. So hopefully that's not the case here.
So if, again, I feel like it's so interesting. I feel like we're just like waiting for something worse to happen. And you can kind of see the cases in New York just go like this. So I had these research scientists. We ran a Skype interview like 2 days ago. And they were like, yeah, in terms of the parabola, the curve, we're probably at 10% of the first half, like given their model.
Yeah.
And so if the healthcare system was to get wildly overrun, you're obviously not an expert in virology, but would they by chance say, hey, Scott, like we need more doctors. Can you come to the hospital and help us?
Yeah, I mean, so the governor just passed some regulations that allow doctors that are either in retirement or have medical licenses in other states that they can come in and practice. So, there's not a lot of reports, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. Maine's actually sending stuff down into Boston. Again, talking about geography. And I'd really love, you think of viruses, and most of the time people tell you that temperature and humidity and all that stuff doesn't matter. The reason you get more influenza in the wintertime is because we're in the room together and we spread the virus around each other. But they say, if you're down warm, it doesn't help you. And if you're too north, it doesn't make a difference. But that may not be the case for this virus in particular. First of all, it's a new virus. It's novel, comes from an animal, which we haven't had before. So we truly don't know how it's going to behave. But it's really possible that, that it may not be so bad in certain areas and really bad in other areas. And so we may have to shift around, we may have to move and do stuff to sort of accommodate that. And if it meant me coming in, there's a meme of of oh god, what's his name? I can't remember. But it's a famous actor, and he's got his scrubs on, and the meme is it's Jack Nicholson. He's like, if you don't want an orthopedic surgeon to take care of your virus, stay home. It's like
So it might be likely.
it could be. It could definitely be. Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, every day I keep waiting to hear like who's the sick person that I know, and I can honestly say I don't know a person that has COVID-19.
Let's knock on wood that it stays like that. I mean, are you in Middlesex County technically?
Yeah, we are. Right?
That's
No,
like
no, I live in North Andover. So is that
That's Middlesex.
Essex? No, I'm in Essex.
Well, Middlesex County has like 140 cases.
Yeah.
And I mean, who knows how it will spread out here?
Yeah, we don't know. So the bottom line is you hunker down for now, and those numbers and the virologist researchers that you were talking to yesterday, as far as that curve, it may be that New York is that curve, but it may be that Boston isn't. So who knows?
I know, again, it's just all a grain of salt. Nobody can really pinpoint this stuff.
Yeah, we don't know.
Can you elaborate on what an N95 mask is? Because that's like, I got no clue.
It means that 95% of the shit that's out there in the air doesn't get through the mask.
And do you use one of those for your normal surgeries?
No, we use just general surgical masks. So when you go around,
Boring.
Yeah, well, dude, we're like, when you wear a surgical mask, it's two things. Number one, you certainly don't want to get blood in your face, right? But number two is you're not spewing all of the stuff in your mouth onto the patient. And so when you go to the grocery store, okay, and you see somebody wearing a mask, so the only reason somebody in public should be wearing a mask is if they're already sick. And by definition, if you're already sick, you should be staying at home anyway.
Dude, everyone is wearing masks now. It's been a slow growth.
It's ridiculous. Absurd. They don't even wear them right. The things are pushing out on the side. They got a thing up here. Air can get in from the sides. I mean, the whole idea of an N95 is it completely surrounds the zone. It's got a filter inside, which then blocks 95% of viral particles and other stuff, toxic stuff from coming in. So you literally, when you're wearing a mask and walking around in the street, what you're doing is helping other people next to you because you're not sending stuff out to them, but it's not protecting you.
Dude, at Stop and Shop,
yeah.
Have you ever seen Silver Linings Playbook?
Yeah.
Like there was someone who looked like Bradley Cooper with all like the trash bags around their body. I'm like, what is that doing for you, man?
And then they wear gloves on, and then they grab the fruit and then they scratch their forehead. I'm like, dudes, what are you doing? This makes no sense. So grab your food, go home and wash your hands, wash your fruit and vegetables, minimize your contact as much as you can to metal and things in which around you. But just don't be picking up avocados and feeling them all and throwing them back in there again. That's not helping anybody. So
has your how you've been disinfecting your practice, has your policy changed at all? Are you like heavier on disinfecting now, or?
So we have every patient that comes in has to wash their hands. We watch them do that.
They should have been doing that before, nasty.
Yeah, but whatever. You're right, but it is what it is. So we have spaced out our waiting room chairs, so everything's at minimum 6 feet apart, so nobody's too close to each other. And then we basically do disinfectant of all of the patient exam rooms, knobs and doors and all of that stuff on a daily basis to try and help to minimize it. I want to be clear, we're a doctor's office, and we're trying to stay open to be able to help society by minimizing having to have patients for musculoskeletal problems go to the emergency room. So it's an outlet. So it's a good thing that we are staying open. We want to minimize contact. I mean, we're still paying our staff, and we basically only have the staff that's needed to try and minimize exposure to our staff as well. So, it's not easy for any of us, for sure. So we're hoping to get some relief too. There's some rumors about small business loans that may be coming out as part of the package. We're trying to figure out if there's ways that we can help our employees to be able to continue. Who knows? I mean, it's like we said, every day, new information's coming down the pipeline that's helping us to try and decide what we do.
It's the first time. Again, I was really young for 9/11, so I didn't really experience it. I was like 4 or 5 years old, but it's like everyone in the world is affected by this or and connected to it, you know?
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's businesses all around. All it doesn't matter what business you're in, unless you're working at Walmart or a grocery store. For the most part, you're severely affected. I mean, these restaurants. I mean, it's going to be devastating for them. I mean, how they, they're not. Some of them are just not coming back. I mean,
Is Sandra's business doing okay?
so that's a great question. So my wife owns a floral shop called Les Fleurs, and
Plug.
yes, exactly.
It's a boutique floral shop, and it has like French. Is it French fusion?
Yeah, well,
Simplistic French fusion.
French themed. It's French themed. So, she's got a tremendous amount of French stuff. She goes to France 4 or 5 times a year, brings that stuff back. She does weddings and events. So obviously all of the weddings and events are all off and canceled. And, but she actually did a really good Instagram story yesterday, and people still are looking for, ways to smile and be happy, and flowers in that regard do. So she goes in, and she's doing like 7 or 8 orders a day. The problem is flowers are getting on airplanes, and airplanes are getting shut down. So the flowers can't be sent in from South America or from the Netherlands, which is where most of them are grown. So she's got a limited supply of flowers. There are some, and she's closed the store down for traffic, but you can phone in or do computer orders for flowers. And they'll either do delivery, they're doing free delivery, or you can do curbside delivery. So it was really cute. She had like 5 orders of curbside delivery that came in yesterday, and she took a picture of each person and told a little bit of the story about why they wanted their flowers. And there were some good stories. It was like, my mother's in Saugus, and she can't get out of the house, and she's like 80 years old. So yeah, we'll deliver some flowers down to Saugus for your mom. It's stuff like that, and it's the best you can do in this environment. And so she's staying open bare bones. She had to furlough employees as well in the hopes that they're going to come back. And that's the story. I mean, that's everybody. The number of unemployment is just skyrocketing through the roof at this point. People just trying to do the best they can to pay their bills.
Yeah, that is tough. And I'm thinking about, because you haven't been to our new spot yet where we ran the podcast with Sandra, but it's in the back of an event space. And like, the lady who owns the space is like, I got to shut down like 18 events.
Yeah. I mean, events are done. Nobody's doing events. I mean, so we had our National Academy meeting, which was supposed to be in Orlando this past, shut down. Every meeting going forwards is now shut down. So I guess the good news is I've got 17-year-old twins who are juniors in high school, and they've been studying their asses off for the ACT. And there's a lot of rumors circulating at this point that most colleges for 2021 applications are going to make testing optional, because they can't get kids in to
they got
test.
lucky.
So, yeah, right. I know. My boy's like, Dad, do you think that's really going to happen? I'm like, I hope. It'd be good for you.
Are they trying to go to the same school?
No, they're twins, but they're completely different. So they'll probably go to different places. Although with testing optional, it changes the whole paradigm for everybody. As far as, so there's been a push to actually, a lot of people wanted to try and get rid of the ACT and SAT anyway. And many schools were already going, testing optional before this event. So this could be the killer for ACT and SATs. We'll see. But right now, the April test got canceled. The June test is on. That ain't going to happen. There's no way.
MCAS got canceled.
Yeah. I mean, so the kids are just, and I'm yelling at my kids. I'm like, dudes, all right. This ain't no vacation. You got to use the brain. What are you going to do today? You got to wake up at 9, work out, do some homework, do some stuff, but you can't just sit around waking up at 11:30. I mean, it's like life does go on. We're going to figure this out.
You guys should just start a fight club in the house.
We watched Ip Man 2 last night. You ever seen that movie?
No, how is it?
Ip Man? It's awesome. It's a fight. It's like a Chinese kung fu movie that's sort of like based on like a Rocky theme. It's really cool. So Ip Man 1 and Ip Man 2 are 2 great movies to watch tonight if you want.
It's the little things that are getting everyone through the day, man. Like,
yeah,
I made some homemade guacamole yesterday. I'm still pumped about it.
Like my kids literally, like, I'm like, all right, no more ordering in. We're done with that. And we're like making meals together, and we're actually cleaning stuff together, We're doing this as a team, So.
I'm gonna call Sara in like 2 minutes because she's got a couple questions.
Yeah.
But so on a treatment tip, you're the big opioid sparing doctor. That's your thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
What type of treatment would you provide for someone with badly damaged lungs from pneumonia and knots and for pain relief? Would they normally prescribe an oxy or a Vicodin for something like that?
So, I want to stay in my lane, but when you get to sort of a near death type thing, when you use narcotics in that situation, believe it or not, it helps to improve respiration. So when you have patients that are home on hospice, for example, they'll gradually increase the amount of narcotic because it does sort of slow down the pace and allows them to breathe somewhat better. So the rules are all changed, in a situation like this. So again, I am not an ICU doc. I'm not a specialist in that area, and I don't want to sort of get outside of my lane. But there are a bunch of experimental treatments that are happening now where the treatment before it gets to that, for sure. I'm sure everybody's heard about, hydroxychloroquine or chloroquine, which is used for malaria. There's been some promising use of that potentially. Again, the nice thing about that medication is that it is FDA approved for another indication, so they can be used relatively quickly if they can show studies. I don't know if you saw Anthony Fauci, who's like,
Oh yeah, that guy's been all over the place.
it's awesome. He really is. He's like literally like the world's greatest infectious disease specialist. And did you see him with his hand in his head like this when Trump was talking the other day? I mean, Trump is out there doing his typical Trump stuff and touting all this craziness with no backing and no science or no proof, but he just says whatever he wants to say. And
I think
Fauci,
you're a terrible reporter.
Fauci's like, oh God, what's he saying now? But he does the best he can to be able to provide, the information that's out there. So
Without being disrespectful to the president, too. He does a good job at
because he knows he's got the platform. He's up there. If he can just sort of push Trump to the side and then really get the true message out, then it will happen. So he's been great about that. But the studies need to be done. We need to be able to trial these things to get more information. There's another medication called remdesivir, which sort of attacks the virus protein. It was originally put out for Ebola. It didn't work well for Ebola, but there's some promising stuff there. There's really unfortunately, there's no evidence of anything really working prophylactically at this point, so don't go out.
What does that mean, prophylactic?
So that means let's take this medication to prevent getting COVID. So, there is no proof of anything at this point. Some people are saying that chloroquine will do that, but again, there's no proof of that. So
there's things that will just help treat it.
That's right. Maybe. We don't know. And the other thing is we have no idea, we know so little about this virus. I mean, there are some virologists that are saying there's over, 500,000 to 1 million people in America that already had COVID. And it's like, you got the common cold, you got a little sniffle, that's how you got COVID. It wasn't virulent for you. And so that's the scary part. Let's talk about that a little bit. All these kids running around, the fearless, kids in college who say, I can do whatever I want, nothing's going to affect me. And for this virus, they may be right. They're probably not getting sick. But as you know with this virus, I'm hoping is that you're typically contagious well before you're symptomatic, which means that you're spewing virus when you're talking to people and you have no fever or a sniffly nose.
Well, it's tough to the whole spring break thing it's stupid, but I understand it. I get what these kids are. I get what they were thinking. Like I was in school 2 years ago. They're like, hey, this is my last year of college. I've always wanted to go on spring break. There's already 50,000 people going down to Panama City Beach. What's difference is going to make if I go down? I understand it's not right, but that's the rationale a lot of them are thinking.
No, and I get it. That's your audience, so we'll respect that. But I can also say that, it's fucking stupid. Pardon my French. I think that, you may not get it, but you're going to go home and you're going to go and have dinner with grandma and your Uncle Lou, and then they're going to get
Not
it.
Uncle Lou.
Yeah, Uncle Lou go down, man. So
he gives the best Christmas presents, man.
So that's what I was trying to get at. I mean, younger people, in China, they survived well. There were not a lot of deaths in the younger kids in that age group, but they make virus and they can be spreading it around. So who knows? I mean, so we don't know.
There's varying statistics on how it affects people in my demographic too. A lot of people are saying like in New York, they said 55% of cases were people between 22 and 40. Yeah. But I also wonder if they skewed the statistic. They say 22 to 40, and it's mostly people that are 35 to 40.
Or you got to test every single person in New York City to truly know who's infected and who's not. So, I mean, that's the problem with this, but we don't have the testing to do that right now. So now we're only testing people that, were symptomatic, who we could change or alter the course of the disease. We want to make sure that people are positive or not around other people. You do the best, again, you're doing the best you can, but ideally this new test that's coming out, which they say is going to be available next week, the FDA approved it. So you can know within an hour whether or not you're positive. I don't know how many they can make or how fast they can get them out, but that would be pretty cool.
I'm going to call Sara Slugs real quick because she has a question for you. Look at this. I feel like Howard Stern.
There you go. Stay in my lane.
With the call-in feature, man.
What? By the way, do you like my wife's shoes? The closet?
Slugs.
How are you?
Slugs, you're live on the Zoom podcast with Dr. Scott Sigman. And one thing I didn't preface is some of these like really intelligent questions I've been asking. Slugs helped me type them up. So shouts out to Slugs.
Slug.
Thank you.
Slugs, here, let me you actually won't be able to hear Dr. S unless let me see if I turn this all the way up. Talk real quick.
You, can you hear me? Slugs. Slugs,
Yeah, I
slugs.
can.
Okay.
All right, Slugs, ask your question, big dog.
So what have you guys been talking about so far?
Just ask it and I'll let you know if we already went over it.
I was wondering about for people who have really bad lung damage from this illness or prior, what would you recommend in
We
a
did
scenario
that.
like
We did that
this?
one.
Did you cover that?
Yeah, we got that one done.
Oh darn. Have you talked about things that are happening, like what his day-to-day is like what does he anticipate the workload to be in the next few weeks?
A little bit. So I think just to clarify, Dr. S,
Yeah.
if the virus was to get pretty bad and then other hospitals were to say, kind of like you were talking about people coming out of retirement, what hospital would you go to? Is that a good question, Slugs?
Yeah, that is a good question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I have my privileges at Lowell General Hospital. I would certainly just hunker down and stay with my medical staff locally. Obviously, I think that one of the things that we were talking about is that we have to really monitor closely where these true hotspots are, and so we may want to be moving in doctors and nurses. Especially what's happening now is that many of the doctors and nurses on the front lines are testing positive for COVID. They then have to drop out, right? Hopefully they're not crazy sick, but they have to drop out of the workforce because you don't want them to then run around becoming infected. I heard something about 10 at the BI and another 9 doctors at Tufts Medical Center as well. So that's a major concern. So I think people right now, what we're doing is we're staying open. We're seeing, patients on a daily basis and seeing mostly the urgent patients that need to be seen to keep them out of the ER.
Now, here's a quick question for you. What if let's say Mass General got wildly overrun and they were like, hey, we need you to leave Lowell, even though you have some sort of allegiance to that hospital? And would they be allowed to just say, hey, we want to pick you up and treat patients over here? Is there this weird thing between like Blue Cross, Blue Shield, health insurance, all that stuff?
Well, normally what you do, you need to have privileges at the hospital in which you work, and it's a big deal, right? They don't want like, hey, my name's Conor, and like I went to medical school down in Grenada, and like here's my references, and can I start working tomorrow?
So fix that shoulder up, baby boy.
Yeah, you're good now, and so the bottom line is it's a very stringent, real difficult policy to be able to get the ability to practice or become on the medical staff of a hospital, but everything's sort of falling away, like even HIPAA right now has been temporarily suspended so that we can telecommunicate, because most of the teleconferencing things, even Zoom, for example, are not HIPAA compliant. You have to have everything super encrypted, but they made that go away. So the answer is yeah. I mean, if it turns out that, Mass General is looking for docs, I have no problem that Governor Baker and Secretary Sutter would say, you can have temporary privileges at this hospital to be able to care for patients. But again, I think by the time it gets to it, it's going to be really, really bad if they're asking Scott Sigman to come down and treat patients with COVID-19 at Mass General.
Slugs, any more questions?
Yeah, so since you're an orthopedic surgeon, what's like the role that you've taken on now? Like, are you in surgeries in other hospitals, or are you on the treating? Have you covered this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's okay. You can answer it again, Dr. S.
Yeah.
No, it's good. Yeah, just keep emphasizing the same stuff. So we're still operating on patients out of Lowell General Hospital, but it's only emergency things. So people get, they break their leg and the bone sticking out of their skin, or if you have a hip fracture, and things like that. Those are still emergency cases, and we're still operating on those patients. What we're not doing is the elective surgeries like knee scopes and labral repairs for the shoulder, ACL reconstructive surgeries. All of those are really considered elective surgeries. Our main role in what we're doing right now as orthopedic surgeons is to try and triage and maintain as many patients outside of the hospital as we can that have orthopedic problems. So we want to keep our office open so that we can funnel those patients away from urgent cares and from the hospital where patients are sick, and those patients might get sick, but then also that the resources are really being utilized more for COVID more than aches and pains or muscle injuries or ankle and knee sprains, which can all be treated in the doctor's office. So that's our main role for right now, as well as caring for the emergency patients.
Slugs, essentially, Dr. Sigman and his practice are like a safe haven for patients that might possibly be getting sent from one hospital to another that need to get surgery done, right?
That makes sense.
All right, Slugs, I'll call you after we're done. We're just going to wrap up.
Do you guys know what COVID-19 is? Do you know what that means?
Dr. S.
I have no clue what COVID-19 means.
Cool, let's do that, because we're going to do two things. We're going to educate the world here for a little bit.
All right,
So-
Slugs, good to talk to you.
Thanks.
Peace.
All right, so COVID-19 is the name of the disease. So it's coronavirus disease 2019. So when you say
That's way more boring than just COVID-19.
yeah, well, the point is that everybody thinks that COVID-19 is the virus is SARS-CoV-2, which is this is you're classic. It's severe acute respiratory disease coronavirus 2. So that's the name of the virus. So it's just a stupid little thing. It's important. People know what they're talking about.
Well, I'll tell you one thing about this virus. You want to hear it?
Sure.
I don't want to get it.
Yeah. Well, actually,
More than likely, I probably will.
I hope you already have. I'm being very blunt about that.
Such a dick, man.
No, listen to me. I'm hoping you've had it, and it was a minor cold, if anything, a sniffle, and now you're immune to it going forwards. There was another really cool study that I heard about, which was promising, and it's really in its infancy. They looked at rhesus monkeys, and they infected the rhesus monkeys with COVID-19. They all got sick. They all proved that the monkeys got sick, and then they actually got better. And then what they did was they reinfected the rhesus monkeys with the virus again, and they didn't get sick. So again, it's a very small study. These viruses mutate. They do change all the time. Sometimes they change to become less virulent. They become just the common cold going forwards instead of becoming this super, super bad virus that we currently have.
I feel like we're at a point where everything's starting that medical professionals are trying to pull every possible study that's even relevant to this thing, though, just because it's so new.
Yeah. Well, what else do we have to do?
Dude, get on Zoom, play video games.
Yeah. No, we're all anxious, right? We're all out of balance. Nobody's doing the routine in which they're doing. And if you turn on the
You
news,
in that Peloton bike?
hell yeah, man. Of course. The
Let's go.
problem is there's nobody in the studio. They won't let anybody in the studio. So it's just you and the instructor, but it's good enough for me. Go Peloton.
But you can it's like virtual classes though, right? That's how Peloton works.
Yeah, no, there can be on demand. You can take them live. But what they've done
I'm saying is like you could be taking a class and then another orthopedic surgeon with a fro could be also taking one, and you guys could be in the same class communicating, correct?
Well, yeah, you can. You can race against each other. There's a leaderboard, so you know where you're standing against everybody else that's racing at the same time. You can high five each other, which is the communication. You can't really talk to each other while you're racing.
Oh, okay. You can't be like, hurry up!
No, like slow.
Fat slob!
No, you can't do that, but you can high five. And then, but look, what else are we going to do? That's the whole point. So you try to be focused. You try and do what little you can. You try to listen. You try to absorb. You try to, get rid of the misinformation. The misinformation's just coming so fast at this point as to what's going on there. Everybody was 100% certain that we were going to be shelter in place tonight by both federal government and Governor Baker. That was the rumor circulating madly for the last 3 days, and looks like that's not going to happen.
You don't think Mass will shut down?
Well, I mean, who knows? I mean, like I said, I mean, no matter what, Trump says one thing, and then 48 hours later, it's something different. So, you know, I think New York is bad. Let's be very blunt about that. It's our hot spot right now in our country and in the world. So we have to see how.
I mean, I think any densely populated area is gonna get hit with this TikTok. I'm surprised. And knock on wood. I mean, Massachusetts is one of the first states to have it because of the conference, and it's grown, but it hasn't been like crazy.
Right, and that's the thing. I mean, I think, you know, I say it, and again, I'm going to stay in my lane, but this virus may be the Goldilocks virus. You know, doesn't like it too hot or too cold. Do you guys remember that story? Probably not. But the porridge and the whole thing.
Not a big reader.
Yeah. Anyway, like in New York, and maybe the local environment's perfect to allow the particles to spread. You know, so the way the virus spreads is that when you sneeze or cough, it actually goes on to the liquids that come out. You know, we've got mucus and stuff like that. So it travels with that mucus, and then it can land on a hard surface, and the hard surface, it can live there and survive there for time periods. And then you go by and you touch it, and then you get it. Unlike things like TB or I think it was polio, where the virus particles themselves can sort of stay and be dispersed sort of within the air, which makes it even more contagious. So I think that the local environment in which that virus is really is super important for community spread. And then I think what's happening, people from those areas, you know, you live in New York, like you heard about the guy on the JetBlue flight from New York that was going down to West Palm. Do you hear that story?
I've heard so many stories of
Yeah, I know. Anyway, he gets on the plane. He knows he's sick, right? And then he gets an email on the frickin' flight to tell him that he's positive for COVID-19.
Oof.
So everybody on the flight gets quarantined, gets shut down. And this guy knew he took the test, but he still wanted to travel. And he was selfish in the way in which he behaved, and then put everybody else at risk. The point being is that, you know, there's a spike in Hong Kong right now where the number of real cases had reduced, in China too, but there's been a spike up because the people that were traveling abroad are now coming home. So the travel spread is one thing. The thing that's potentially devastating is the community spread. Once you get somebody in the community, if it's just right for the virus to spread, then everybody within the community gets sick. And so, you know, at this point, we're waiting to see how the community spread is really affected in various areas.
Dr. S, you're a great guy.
No, I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for asking.
Hey, I would be, and hopefully things don't get totally out of hand, but if fitting, maybe in like 3-4 weeks, we could run another one.
Yeah, love it.
Based on what's going on. You could be the chief Golden Deer Productions medical expert.
That's it.
You're like the Sanjay Gupta for GDP.
Oh, you are a hoot.
I've been seeing the same like TV personalities for like 10 straight days.
Well, Jennifer Ashton, who's the chief medical officer for ABC News, I think she's in Boston, if I'm not mistaken, but she's an OBGYN. I mean, it's like, so what happens for a lot of these medical, you know, TV personalities, they're good at what they do in front of the camera. And it may not be that she's an infectious disease specialist, but, you know, because she has a great presence, she's been amazing. I mean, that woman has literally been nonstop.
What's most important, they can just deliver transparent information to people.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. That's exactly right. Exactly.
Maybe in like 15 years, you'll be the next Fauci, man.
No, that's okay.
Our savior.
Not quite, but I do appreciate that, man. He's been awesome. He really has. Hi, this is Dr. Scott Sigman. That was my Platinum Hour.